Thank you very much for letting me speak here. An honor. I prepared a text that I want to read for you. We Iranians are not followers of an ideology rooted in hostility toward the West or its values. On the contrary, unlike our Islamic terrorist regime, we Iranians embrace Western values such as democracy, secularism, and human rights. That's why we proudly carry the UK flag. And we hate Islamic Sharia law because unlike you, we have lived it and we know how disgusting and dangerous this ideology is. We are here to warn the British people about the influence of the Islamic regime in your country, which seeks to spread its ideology through so-called religious and cultural centers across the UK. Remember, a society that tolerates intolerance undermines itself. We Iranians are being held hostage in our own country by a cult driven by an apocalyptic ideology that has nothing to do with our culture. We are a proud nation, heirs to a civilization that introduced the world leaders like Cyrus the Great, regarded as the pioneer of the human rights, the leader who liberated the Jewish slaves from Babylon and let them build their temple in Jerusalem. Therefore, the relation between Iranian and Israelis is biblical. And today, after 2,500 years, once again, the Iranian people and the Jewish people are fighting the same evil forces, Islamist terrorists. They are fighting against Hamas and Hezbollah, and we are fighting their godfather, the Islamic Republic and the IRGC. And luckily, the IDF and the US Army are helping us in our fight. We don't call it a war, we call it rescue mission.
Yes.
This is why we proudly carry Israel's flag. That's why you cannot dismiss us as Mossad agents. However, we respect our neighbors regardless of their ethnicity or religion. Many of us, if not all, were born and raised in Muslim families. We were sent to Islamic schools. Therefore, no one knows better than us the difference between a decent Muslim and a jihadist terrorist. For 47 years, we endured repression, faced torture in prison, suffered systematic sexual violence, and witnessed the killing of our children and youth. We hold the highest execution rate in the world, and our women have been killed for merely exposing a few strands of hair. We even have been flogged for dancing. Now, no, we are not Islamophobic, but we have Islamotrauma. It is true that during recent uprising, some mosques were set on fire. What those terrorists fail to mention is that many of these so-called mosques function as operational bases for IRGC and paramilitary forces like Basij, the terrorist jihadists. The Islamic Republic, like their fellow terrorist proxies such as Hezbollah and Hamas, currently hides its military forces and war equipment in non-military locations such as stadiums, mosques, parks, and schools to prevent an Israeli attack. And when Israel does strike and there is collateral damage, Islamists, leftists, Marxists, and communists in the West gather and start claiming that Israel is an evil and oppressive government. But where were these peace-loving people when in less than 3 months ago, in just 2 nights, more than 40,000 protesters were massacred and butchered? Where were they when the regime shot down the Ukrainian plane and then tried to blame the US to cover up its crime and rally public support? Where were they when the regime killed Omir Tsarlak simply for holding a flag? Where were they when the regime killed Kian Pirfalak in his mother's arms? Where were they when the regime raped and killed a teenager, Nika Shakarami? Why didn't come to the street then to chant stop the war? I tell you why. Our suffering didn't align with their narrative at the time. In their narrative, Trump and Bibi are imperialist monsters. but to us, they are saviors. No, you don't care about us. You just hate US and Israel, and we know that. Our conflict is not between Muslims and non-Muslims. It's a struggle between fundamentalists and extremists on one side and ordinary people of Iran on the other. We Iranians respect every individual freedom to choose their way of life. Few people value freedom of religion and freedom of speech more deeply than we do, principles that are often taken for granted in the West. These are the very values for which thousands of Iranians have lost their lives for. Yet, when our cause doesn't align with mainstream media's priority, we are minimized or dismissed. Their coverage reduces our suffering to a mere political dispute. When in just 2 days more than 40,000 people were killed and more than 350,000 were injured. Guys, think about those numbers. In just 2 nights, they carry Palestine flag. Why they don't carry the Iranian flag? They don't care about us. We want change, fundamental change. We want a new government which is not Islamic. We want secularism. We want normal relation with all our neighbors, with Arab nations, with Israel, and of course with the US. And thanks to President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, we're reaching our goals. Last but not least, you know that Iranians, regardless of their ethnicity or religious background, are calling on King Reza Pahlavi to return and help to guide the country toward a secular, democratic government founded on human rights and the ballot box. But they choose not to listen. Thank you very much for giving me this chance to speak.